What's up, everybody? John Price here from the Collegiate iRacing League, and we're going to be taking a look at a lap of Suzuka in the 991 RSR. Really fun track, great car combination for it. I'm sure the GT3 cars are pretty fun at this track as well. Not the cleanest driving from me. I'm going to blame it mostly on the second dose of Moderna, but made a few mistakes across the lap and actually did have a 1X on this 155.0 that we're looking at, but it was such a slight one that I'm not going to count it. But anyways, it was a pretty cool track. It was 70 degrees, and we had about 12 gallons in the car. So we're going to take a look at this lap in full, and then we'll go over it in detail after that. All right, Suzuka, fun little track, and definitely has its challenges for sure. Very crucial to get some of the flow sections right, especially in Sector 1. So anyways, we'll hop over to the chase cam and start going down towards turn 1. So our braking reference for turn 1, I'm using this blue cone here to mark the end of the pit lane. So we're going to hit peak pressure relatively quickly here, pretty much just as we pass this cone, and then we're going to come out of peak pressure relatively fast as well as we trail down into turn 1, aiming to meet up with the second half of this apex here, and then going to let it run out to that exit curb again to set up for turn 2. So out of peak pressure by the time we get to here, just kind of maintaining this 20% pressure or so, meet up with the curb just about there, let it set up out here. Hang on, let me double check. Are we on the right lap? I've done this too many times before, so hang on. Okay, yep, so hitting peak pressure there, then going to bleed off into this first apex, meet up with it just here, and then run out to this this exit curb here, get these left side tires just on top of that exit curbing, and then bring it gently down into turn 2, just bleeding out of the rest of the brake pressure here at this point, and then I'm going to pick up the throttle relatively early and meet up with the second half of this curb just here. Taking a lot of curb here, you can get away with this much, not too much more than that, and then taking all of the curb that you can on the exit as well, all the way out to there. So I think we use every single inch of curb just about. So set up on the right hand side for the following turn, left hand turn. You're going to lift pretty early because it is crucial to get the tires on top of this little green painted concrete strip here on the inside, just about that much. It does just so much to open up the remaining corners throughout this section. So not going to go any further out than mid-track here, and then on the brakes a little bit to get the car to meet up with this apex just here, and then really want to get the car on top of the apex as well. If you can be down here, but you will shorten up the rest of the corner if you manage to get the tires on top of this curbing here. Then gently bleed into the power, but not so much that you use all of the exit. We only want to exit to about mid-track, no real further than this, to set up the rest of the corners. And then again, on top of the green concrete here on this corner. And then you can take a wider line than what I chose to do here for this turn, but this tends to be a pretty consistent way to do it. We are going to drop down to second gear. That's one thing I did forget to mention. We did this whole last section in third gear pretty much, so everywhere from I think turn 3 onwards was third gear until here, where we're going to drop down to second gear. The reason I'm saying that is because it's better to keep the car in one gear if you can. It's too easy to upset the car by shifting between second and third a lot in that section. So if you can stay in one gear, I recommend doing it. This corner does require a lower gear for the exit though. So we will go down to second here, and then we're going to stay very tight to this apex the whole way around the corner and not going to exit any further than mid-track. One of the most common mistakes people make on the circuit is running all the way out here to this exit curb, and then it's way too hard to get the car back over here. You have to lift way too much for the next left-hander that's uphill, and you kind of lose some camber as you get to the top of it too when you crest it. So we're going to exit about mid-track here and then have an early lift to get into this, so a tiny bit of brake and then mostly a lift, and then aiming to meet up kind of right mid with this apex. And we just get short of it. Actually, we're about a foot and a half off of it at our closest point. But the crucial thing is you don't want to run too wide here. This is about as far as you can go and still be safe. If you go any further than this, it's likely going to hook one of these outside tires and send the car into a spin. So I think on this lap we even delayed getting to the throttle a little bit to ensure that we didn't run too wide and risk ruining the lap. So then we're going to bring it back over to the left-hand side of the track, setting up for the first Degner corner. So looking for the 50-meter board, going to brake at about the 60-65 range or so. We're going to go down 2 gears for this corner as well. It's kind of one of those corners where you chuck it in more so than just kind of feather it in because of the nature of the corner. But crucially is this apex curb. You want to be no closer really than we are here to it. If you go too further than this, you will get thrown off this curb and into the exit of the corner, and you'll probably run too wide. So just want to meet up with it right about here, get back into the throttle as early as you can. Use a fair amount of the exit, but not a lot here. It's too easy to get the car upset by running out too wide here. And then just focus on the braking point for the following Degner corner, Degner 2. We're going to be on the brakes very early here. So on the brakes at peak pressure is about 70% here for this one since it's downhill. So on the brakes pretty early, and then a nice trail brake into this corner, aiming to meet up with the apex and take a fair amount of curb at the apex here. So you can actually get 2 tires on top of the green concrete on the inside. And then being very careful to not run too wide on the exit while still getting on the throttle as fast as we can. I think we even have a little bit of oversteer on this occasion, trying to get as much speed on the exit as we can. So yeah, just a little pinch of oversteer there, but nothing that hurt us really too bad there, using as much curb as we can really get away with. So the hairpin. This lap was not my finest work on the hairpin, I freely admit that one, but anyways, we're going to be trying to make the braking point as straight as possible here. So kind of as soon as we get off this curb here, we're onto the brakes and as much pressure as we can get away with. So the more steering angle that you have on, the less brake pressure you can get into immediately. So you have to wait till the car's kind of straightened up. And we start to cheat down in the corner too early here. So this is too early of a turn in on my part. You want to meet up with the corner maybe another car length in front of this point, because it's going to kind of compromise the exit where we're at right now. So we have too little speed at this point, and we're kind of struggling to get into the throttle as fast as we can and still get the car turned by the time we get to the exit. So we want to meet up with the throttle, meet up with the apex a little bit later there, and then that's going to enable you to get into the throttle a lot more aggressively on exit than we did here. But you do want to use as much curb as you can on the exit. You'll probably meet up with it and be as far as you can on the outside just about this point. So again, exit no more than mid-track. Get the car over to the right-hand side. Some guys say you have to get tires on top of this concrete patch here, and I try to most of the laps. I think I just slightly missed at this one, but we do want to take a fairly tight approach, run a little further than mid-track here, and then bring it right back over to the right-hand side, meet up with the end of this curb here, and then keep it aimed right, straight line braking down into spoon curve. I tend to use this service road here on the right hand side to mark where I need to be braking, and then it's going to be pretty heavy brakes initially, and then you got to bleed off very quickly. Going to go down to the third gear for this corner and just kind of gently bring it on top of this curb, feed in the throttle just enough to get it to meet up with this exit curb here, and then down one more gear, down a little bit on brakes as well, and then make sure it has to meet up with this apex curb right here. This is kind of an exponential loss corner, so the further you are off the apex, the more time you lose exponentially. So you have to meet up with this apex. It's going to open up the exit much better. There's more grip on the inside as well, and it's going to keep you from getting an off track when you get to just here. So the way the off tracks work on this corner are a little bit strange. If you run wide early, it will count it more aggressively than if you run wide later. So You do want to take some curb here, so you can see it's getting pretty much the entire car over the curbing here, and that's okay. But if you do that back here, or sorry, just about here, then that's too much, and it will give you an off track there. So meeting up with that last apex of spoon curve is very crucial there. Then setting up for 130R, going to get the car as straight of a line as possible, take a short distance as we can towards 130R. I was not quite paying attention here, probably checking my delta or something like that, and actually ran on top of the grass a little bit. Ignore that. And I actually turn in a little bit too late here, so everything I do on this, you want to do maybe a tenth of a second earlier than what I do. But so maybe turning in just at the 50 board or so, because we're just off the apex here, which actually kind of hurts us a little bit. And then you can get in the throttle a little bit earlier than what I did there. And then we're going to brake at about the 120 board. So we've got 150, 100 there. Going to brake pretty much right in between the two of them. Pretty big brake pressure, and you're going to hold it for a while into the last chicane. Very tricky chicane. And then we're going to go down to first gear, get right on top of this first apex curb. And you can see this is just where we get a 1x. Just get the 1x there. It's maybe a matter of millimeters probably separating that 1x from not. So that's why I'm saying I count this lap. And then right on top of the second apex again, and then use all the exit curb you can while still getting the car straightened up for the exit. And the name of the game on this exit curb here is what all you can do to keep the car in full throttle, out of the traction control, and on track. So in this case, that means running it right to the outside of the track. You do have a little bit of section you can cheat with just there, but really no further than that. And that's going to enable you to take a really fast line onto the apex, or sorry, onto the start finish straight. So not the cleanest lap overall, and I'm not an expert at Suzuka. I'm probably a bit better at that Laguna than I am at Suzuka, but overall not too bad. I think the lines tend to be correct for most cars, and I've driven this quite a bit in IP2000, and the lines seem to be pretty similar. So as always, if you guys have any questions, let me know in the Discord chat or otherwise, and until next time, I'll talk to y'all then.